Why does it still ache? That old wound, the one you thought time, or perhaps even your most fervent prayers, should have sealed in silence by now, yet it throbs with a stubborn, persistent memory, a scar not merely upon your skin but etched far deeper, into the very marrow of your spirit. You've asked, haven't you, in the hushed vulnerability of your most solitary hours, perhaps with tears tracing familiar paths down your cheeks, can faith truly heal every wound? Or is that hopeful phrase just a comforting platitude, a gentle whisper meant for hurts less gaping, less soul-shattering than the one you carry, the one that defines so much of your landscape? What if the answer isn't the simple yes or no your heart so desperately craves? What if the divine mechanism of healing, the very process by which faith engages with our deepest suffering, operates on a plane of existence, a spiritual dimension, that we seldom fully access or understand, holding a profound secret to a wholeness that transcends mere recovery, a wholeness you might have given up on believing is even possible for you? You see, when we speak of faith healing every wound, we're not talking about a cosmic eraser that wipes away the past as if it never happened, nor are we suggesting a magical incantation that instantly reverses all damage. Oh, if only it were that simple, that devoid of the grit and grace of true spiritual transformation. The truth, the one that began to dawn on me not in a moment of dazzling revelation but through a slow, agonizing crawl out of my own pit of despair, is far more complex, infinitely more beautiful, and yes, sometimes painfully mysterious. I remember a particular wound in my own life, a betrayal so profound it felt as though my very foundations had been dynamited, leaving behind a smoking crater where my trust and security once stood. For years, I prayed for the pain to stop, for the memory to fade, for the anger to dissipate. I tried forgiveness, I tried understanding, I tried sheer willpower. And while some of the sharpest edges softened, the core ache remained, a cold stone in my heart. I'd look at others who seemed to move on from their hurts with such apparent ease, and the question would echo, why not me? What am I doing wrong? Is my faith too small, too fractured? Is this wound simply too deep for even God to touch? It was in that place of wrestling, of near surrender to the idea that some pains are simply meant to be endured, that the first secret of faith's healing power began to unfurl itself, not as an answer, but as a gentle, persistent reframing. The first crucial understanding that began to shift my perspective, a truth that might initially feel like a subtle semantic game but is, in reality, a foundational pillar of divine healing, is this: faith often heals not by eradicating the event or the memory of the wound itself, but by fundamentally transforming its meaning and its power over you. Think about it. The events that caused your deepest wounds are embedded in your history. They happened. To deny them or to expect their complete obliteration from your memory is often unrealistic and can even be a form of spiritual bypassing. But what faith does, in its mysterious alchemy with the Holy Spirit, is to lift that wound out of the realm of pure, unadulterated trauma and place it within the larger, overarching narrative of God's redemptive plan for your life. Suddenly, the wound is no longer the defining chapter of your story. It becomes a single, albeit significant, passage in a much grander epic. It's like Joseph declaring to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Genesis 50 verse 20. Did Joseph forget the betrayal, the pit, the slavery, the false accusation? Unlikely. Those scars were real. But his faith allowed him to see God's sovereign hand weaving even those horrific experiences into a tapestry of ultimate good, not just for himself but for an entire nation. This doesn't make the initial pain less real or less agonizing. Your tears are valid. Your anger is understandable. But faith whispers a shocking possibility. This pain, this very wound that feels like it will destroy you, can become a place where God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9. It can become a catalyst for a depth of compassion, a resilience of spirit, a profound understanding of grace that you might never have accessed otherwise. The healing, then, isn't the absence of a scar, but the transformation of that scar into a testament of God's ability to bring beauty from ashes, strength from brokenness. It's about the wound no longer dictating your identity or your future, because its meaning has been redeemed, recontextualized by a faith that sees beyond the immediate suffering to a divine purpose, however hidden it may seem at first. This is not about minimizing your pain, but about maximizing God's potential within your pain. You start to ask different questions, not just why did this happen to me, but God, how can you use this for your glory and for my ultimate good, for the deepening of my soul? This cognitive and spiritual shift is monumental. It's the beginning of detaching the wound from the chains of bitterness and allowing it to become, paradoxically, a source of profound spiritual growth. The wound remains a part of your history, but it ceases to be a prison for your future. The second profound insight into why faith holds such unique healing power lies in its direct connection to the ultimate source of all restoration, God Himself. You see, so many earthly methods of healing, while often valuable and necessary, therapy, medicine, community support, can primarily address the symptoms or the emotional and psychological layers of a wound. They can mend broken bones, soothe frayed nerves, teach coping mechanisms, and offer comfort. And for these, we should be deeply grateful. But faith, true, vibrant faith, does something more. It acts as a conduit, a spiritual lifeline that plugs you directly into the limitless, inexhaustible reservoir of divine power, love, and grace. It's like the woman who, suffering from a hemorrhage for 12 long years, had exhausted all her resources on physicians to no avail. Her healing didn't come from another earthly remedy. It came when, with desperate faith, she reached out and touched the hem of Jesus' garment, Mark 5 verses 25 to 34. In that moment of contact, born of pure faith, power flowed from him to her, and she was healed. Notice, the power wasn't inherent in her act of touching, but in the one she touched. Similarly, the healing power of your faith doesn't reside in the intensity of your belief as a standalone force, as if you could simply believe hard enough and magically fix everything. No, the potency of your faith lies in its object, the living God, the Creator, the Healer, Jehovah Rapha. When your faith, however small or trembling, reaches out to Him, it opens a channel for His restorative energy, His perfect love which casts out fear, His divine wisdom which brings order to chaos, to flow into the deepest recesses of your wounded spirit. This is a level of healing that transcends the physical and the psychological. It touches the spiritual core of your being, the part of you made in God's image, the part that longs for communion with Him. Earthly remedies can clean and bandage a wound, but divine power can regenerate tissue from the inside out, mending spiritual fractures that no human hand can reach. This isn't to say that God only works supernaturally. He often uses skilled professionals and loving communities as His instruments. But faith provides access to a dimension of healing that is uniquely His, a direct infusion of His life-giving spirit into our brokenness. It's the shocking realization that you are not just trying to heal yourself with God's help, but that you are inviting the omnipotent healer to do His work within you, a work that can be far more thorough and transformative than you ever dared to imagine. This connection is the hidden mechanism, the divine secret, that allows faith to address wounds at their very root, not just their surface manifestations. However, and this is a crucial understanding that often trips us up and leads to discouragement, faith often initiates a process of healing, not always an instantaneous fix. This is the third vital piece of the puzzle, a truth that requires patience and a redefinition of what healed truly means. We live in a culture of immediacy, of quick fixes and instant gratification. And yes, sometimes God does grant miraculous, instantaneous healings. We see them in Scripture, and many testify to them today. But more often than not, especially with deep emotional and spiritual wounds, healing is a journey, a gradual unfolding, a slow and steady transformation that occurs over time, layer by layer. Think of the slow mending of a deep physical wound. It requires cleaning, dressing, protection, and time for new cells to grow and knit together. Spiritual healing is often similar. Faith, in this context, is not a one-time prayer that magically makes everything better. Rather, faith is the unwavering commitment to stay on the operating table of the divine surgeon, to keep showing up, to keep trusting His hand even when the process is painful or progress seems imperceptibly slow. It's the perseverance that James speaks of. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of various kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. James 1 verses 2 to 4. The finishing work of perseverance is often the deep, lasting healing itself. During this process, faith acts as your sustenance. It's the belief that even when you can't see outward change, God is working internally. It's the trust that He is using this period of healing to build resilience in you, to deepen your character, to refine your spirit, and, most importantly, to draw you into a more intimate and dependent relationship with Him. The wound that once drove you to despair can become the very thing that compels you to seek His face daily, to lean on His strength in a way you never would have otherwise. This process can be frustrating. There will be days when the old pain flares up, when doubts creep in, when you wonder if you're making any progress at all. This is where so many give up, concluding that faith hasn't worked. But this is precisely where faith must become most active, not as a feeling, but as a resolute choice to believe God's promises over your present experience. The warning here is to not mistake the duration of healing for the absence of healing. God's timing is not our timing. His methods are often beyond our immediate comprehension. Faith trusts that the Master Weaver knows exactly what He is doing, even when all we see are tangled threads on the underside of the tapestry. This journey of healing, sustained by faith, transforms not only the wound but the person carrying it, making them more like Christ, which is, perhaps, the deepest healing of all. Finally, and this touches upon the very essence of our being, faith opens us to a dimension of spiritual healing that goes far beyond what our physical senses can perceive or our emotional intellect can fully grasp, addressing wounds that reside in the soul itself. There are injuries, perhaps you carry some, that aren't about a physical ailment or a purely psychological trauma. They are wounds to your spirit, to your core identity, to your relationship with God and with your own God-given worth. Think of the gnawing ache of deep-seated shame, the corrosive acid of unforgiveness, both given and received, the haunting specter of betrayal that shatters your ability to trust, or that profound existential despair that questions the very meaning of your existence. These are soul wounds, and earthly remedies, however helpful for ancillary symptoms, often cannot reach their spiritual roots. Faith, however, speaks directly to this spiritual dimension. It's through faith that we apprehend God's unconditional love and acceptance, a love that can begin to dissolve the most stubborn shame. It's through faith that we access the power of Christ's forgiveness, enabling us to both receive it for our own failings and extend it to those who have wounded us, breaking devastating cycles of bitterness. It's through faith that we begin to rebuild our trust, not primarily in fallible humans, but in an infallible God who promises never to leave us nor forsake us. It's through faith that we discover our true identity, not as victims of our wounds, but as beloved children of God, endowed with purpose and inherent worth, regardless of what has happened to us or what we have done. This spiritual healing is the profound secret to why faith can touch every wound, because it addresses the ultimate wound, our separation from God and the resulting spiritual brokenness. When our relationship with our Creator is restored and nurtured through faith, a deep, foundational healing begins that permeates every other aspect of our being. It brings a peace that surpasses all understanding, Philippians 4 verse 7, a sense of wholeness that isn't dependent on perfect circumstances or the complete absence of pain, but on the abiding presence of God in our lives. This is the healing that allows you to stand firm even when old scars ache, because you know you are anchored in something, someone, far greater than your pain. It provides an eternal perspective, reminding you that even the wounds that leave their mark for the entirety of your earthly journey will find their ultimate, complete, and perfect healing in the presence of God, where Revelation 21 verse 4 promises, He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. Faith allows you to live in the reality of that future promise, even now. So, when we ask, why does faith heal every wound? The answer unfolds like a sacred scroll. It's because faith reframes our suffering within God's redemptive story, transforming its meaning and power. It's because faith connects us directly to the divine source of all healing, allowing His power to work in ways earthly remedies cannot. It's because faith sustains us through the often lengthy process of healing, building our character and deepening our intimacy with God. And it's because faith addresses the deepest spiritual wounds of the soul, restoring our core identity and our relationship with our Creator, anchoring us in an eternal hope that transcends present suffering. This isn't a simple formula, but a profound, lifelong journey of discovering the multifaceted healing that only God can provide, a healing that makes us not just better, but truly whole, truly new. It's a path walked not by sight, but by a rugged, tenacious faith that clings to the healer even when the healing seems distant. The scars may remain, reminders of battles fought and survived, but they no longer define you. Instead, they become signposts of His grace, His strength, and His unwavering love that brought you through. What wound, what ache, are you bringing before the throne of grace today, daring to believe that His touch can reach even there? I invite you to share a fragment of your journey, a whisper of your hope, or even the name of the wound you're entrusting to Him in the comments below. Let this space be a sanctuary where faith is strengthened and hope is rekindled as we bear witness to His healing power in each other's lives. And if this exploration of faith's profound ability to heal resonates deep within your spirit, if you long to continue discovering the pathways to wholeness found in His Word, I warmly encourage you to subscribe to this channel, so we can walk this sacred path together, step by step, towards the complete healing He has promised.